Hello, scrappers, recyclers, and investors. Welcome to Shark Scrapper Live, where every week we talk about a precious metal and industrial metal stocks that are somehow related to scrapping and recycling, sometimes loosely, and safety and business. It is going to be a fun hour with you all. I look forward to getting this thing going. So, welcome aboard. I want to be a big shout out here to Andrew from New Zealand, who came in early to tell me that he had a great early start to his day. So he's out and about, but Andrew, have a good one. JCT, welcome. Scrapping Irish, Roger at CU Scrapping, great to have you here. JR Cat, always welcome to the show. I tell you what, I had a lot of fun this past week, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on in the stream. So first we're going to dive right into our precious metal for the day. Yeah, I wonder sometimes why they call this a precious metal, but we'll get there. So once again, disclaimers. I am not sponsored by AppMex. I don't get any money from them. In fact, I usually end up giving them money. They are one of the companies that I have used to buy and sell my precious metals. I only deal with gold and silver for my investment purposes, and I only deal in physical gold and silver. I don't do paper gold and silver products. And I believe that everybody should have a little bit of physical gold and silver in their portfolio, depending upon your investment desires. So, platinum. Why are we talking about platinum? Well, we've been talking about gold and silver. We talk about gold and silver a lot. And I thought it was time to address one of the other quote unquote precious metals. Plus, last week I was at a recycling conference, and platinum was one of the things that folks were talking about. So I figured, why not talk about platinum? All right, so here's our 24-hour chart, and we can see that platinum is, just not doing too well. That's kind of ugh. And you know what? When we here, wait a minute. Let me do this, and we do this so that the arrow goes away at a certain point. Let's make it even faster because it just doesn't want to go away real quick on that setting. So we look at the 3-day, and we see that platinum is not doing any better on the 3-day. We're still down here, and it's just a rough time for platinum. If we look at the week, we're down for the week. If we look at the month, well, now here you kind of say, well, wait a minute, platinum was climbing for a while until around the 3rd of November, and then it took this plunge. So we had a little bit of recovery in platinum going on there for a little bit anyway, right? For the 3-month, down 9.5%. So, if you drew the line straight across, you'd see that down. But, what you really see going on is it drops, it climbs, it drops, it climbs, it drops again, it climbs again. But it's just not going in the direction that we would like it to go in right here. Year to date, we're down. For the year, we're down. This is just not a good metal here, right? So, and then for the 5-year, just not a whole lot going on, right? Down 7, almost 8% overall. Fair amount of volatility inside of here. Look at how jagged all these signals are. And then if we go all the way back to the mid 90s, okay, we're up almost 144%. But if you look at the way this this trended. We were relatively flat. You had a climb here. Then we get this spike. It drops off. It climbs again, and then it's just been on the way down as we saw. So what's going on with platinum? I mean, you know, why does platinum act like this when gold and silver? You know, I mean, if we look at the 3 month here, let's do this. Let's look at, here's the 3 month for platinum. But if you look at the 3 month for gold, yeah, it's down a little bit, but not real bad. You look at silver, it's down a little bit, but not that bad. So you look at year to date, and you've got gold has had some nice movement and is up year to date. Silver is down. Nice movement in there. Platinum hanging in. So here's the big difference. Here's the big difference with platinum versus gold and silver. Platinum is as much an industrial metal as it is a precious jewelry collector kind of metal. So while there are lots of people out there who will invest in gold or silver as a hedge against inflation and to use it as jewelry and, you know, collector kind of things, there are not as many people that are going to invest in platinum as a hedge against inflation. It's also not as popular in jewelry type or collectible type products. So it doesn't get that stability that gold and silver has, where it will almost, you know, work in the opposite direction of you know, the investment dollar and things of that nature. So the industrial applications of platinum have a huge impact on its pricing. And, you know, I think we all know that platinum being a big part of catalytic converters, with the slowdown in the auto industry, with the conversion to electric vehicles, it's just not in demand the way it used to be. So we've got some issues with platinum as an investment grade. And Roger already kind of beat me to it here. I was going to ask the question, how many of you have platinum? Whether it is as an investment metal or as a jewelry metal or as in something other than its industrial applications. And Roger said that his wedding band is platinum. His ex said at the time that I was into metals, she wanted something different. Yeah, well, yeah, mine's gold. My wedding band is gold. So yeah. Interesting. Anybody else have any platinum in their either as in their portfolio or as a piece of jewelry, or have you purchased you know, any platinum jewelry for anybody that that is special in your life? All right, so let's see who's joined us while I've been talking about platinum. Patrick Williams, welcome. Homer's Reluctant Odyssey, welcome. And thanks for the box, man. I really appreciated it. I had some fun with it. Daniel Houston, thanks for joining us. Great to see you here. David Young, great to have you here. Big Country Scrappers in the house. Electronic Scrapper, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so let's see. Electronic Scrapper says he keeps his platinum salts for refinement. Okay, very cool. Very cool. And Big Country says he has platinum bullion. Oh, very interesting. So let me ask you, Big Country, did you purchase that through somebody like Kitco or AppMax or one of those folks, or how did you come about that? And what mint or you know, what stamp do you have? That's really cool. Gaz, welcome. Great to have you here. So I'm going to give Big Country a minute to respond, and we'll see where he got it from and what mint or mine or other mark he's got there for platinum. One of the biggest concerns that I always had with platinum, and I'll be just, you know, really painfully blunt about it, was my concern was that if I took if I took a platinum bar or round or something like that into a pawn shop or a jewelry shop or a coin shop, would they recognize it as platinum and pay me accordingly? Or would it create an issue where they would say, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to pay a platinum value for it. So that was kind of one of my things. All right. So Big Country says he bought it from his bullion shop back when it was 400 an ounce, and it's maples. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, gee, go figure. Maples. All right. Very cool. That's sweet. And you're doing okay if you paid 400. So very good, man. And JR Cat says the only that he has is his wife's ring. Okay. David, I gotta be honest with you. I'm not sure. I'll go back and check. It's been a crazy couple weeks going on around here. I'll have to go back and check, man. I will make a note to check. I'm writing it right now on my pad. All right, so that takes us to our safety note of the day. And like a lot of the safety notes that I share, this one is based on some experiences over the weekend or just, things that went on. And while it is technically or usually induced by a concern of what to do in case of a fire, what the real issue is when you are traveling or when you go to a new place, I recommend that you take a moment and consciously think through your situational awareness at that location. Now, part of this is my military training, and I used to have to travel a lot. So when I would go to a hotel, one of the conscious things I would do is I'd get to my room and I would stand at the door to my hotel room and I would say, okay, where's the fire exit? If it's dark, if it's smoky, if there's alarms ringing, I would implant in my mind, come out of the door and turn left, or come out of the door and turn right, whatever it was, so that I could at least have half a chance of getting to an emergency exit in a dark, smoky, or confusing time, right? So that situational awareness applies to more than just going to a hotel, of course. Hotels are, a common one because you're usually not going to a hotel that you're going to know that you frequent. Well, maybe some of you do, but so it's going to be a strange new environment and you need to know how you're going to get out if you have to get out. And then, of course, it's also not just in case of a fire, right? Anymore these days, when you're in a public place, you have to be thinking about active shooter concerns. So how are you going to get out of whatever building you're in, room you're in, space you're in, if you have something like an active shooter situation develop? So your situational awareness for an evacuation or your personal safety concern like that is something that I hope that you'll just sort of put a plug in the back of your mind and pay attention to. This could be as simple as, the next time you go to a restaurant, right? And you get seated at the table. It's like, okay, where's the emergency door? I know this is going to sound really weird, but I hate to have my back to the front door. I always want to have my back up against a relatively solid wall or structure, or, a place where no one can come right in off of the street, as best I can. I don't mean to sound paranoid here. That's not my intent. But you do want to make sure that you know how you're going to get yourself out of any place that you're in at the time. And think about the fact that you may not have unobstructed visibility. It could be cloudy, smoky. There could be people running around. You might even get knocked over and have to pick yourself off of the ground. And so you might be disoriented. Those kind of things that are, are possibilities. What are the odds? What are the chances that it's going to happen to you? Probably slim to none. Let's be real. How many of us ever find ourselves in those situations for real? But if you ever do, you want to have consciously thought through. And it's funny how something like that, you just take a minute, because I do this every time I go to a hotel. I'll take a minute after I put my suitcases and stuff in the hotel, I'll come back to the hotel door, I'll open it up, I'll step in the hallway, and then I'll figure out where the emergency exit is. And then I'll say to myself, come out the door, turn left. Come out the door, turn right. It's just a weird kind of thing that it'll stick in your brain when you need it to. So it's just something worth doing. And, anytime you're going into a strange building, a new place that you haven't been before, just pay attention to something like that, that situational awareness. All right, that's our safety note for the day. Kind of an odd take on both fire safety and situational awareness, but hopefully something that you'll never have to take advantage of. Okay, so Big Country added that he buys his bullion in maples from ASE form because they're well known in Canada and the US. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I even recently accepted from somebody whose name I will not reveal because I don't know if they want me to talk about this or not, but I accepted as payment for something. Come on, you. Show of those. Can you see them? Yeah, so I accepted some in payment because, yes, I recognize them and I know that they are recognized as well. So I get it. All right. Jay Cutson, welcome to the show. Great to have you here. And let's see, did somebody else come out? No, I thought somebody else came in. No worries. Homer, no, I hadn't studied wild-billed Hickok. It was just, but when I was in the military, of course, we had lots of security training that we had to go through. So, and JR Cat says, my wife tells at me for testing emergency exit sings. I'm kind of that one. I retype that one, JR Cat. I'm missing that one. I'm thinking maybe your brain got ahead of your fingers when you were typing that. Yeah, I know what you mean, Big Country. There's nothing wrong with being paid in bullion. It's not a bad way to to add to your stack, it's kind of a fun way to turn scrap into gold and silver, right? Okay, so the next metal that we're going to talk about is an industrial metal, and this is another one that we're just we're kind of shaking our head at what in the world is going on here. Now, first of all, I want to again state that I am not sponsored by Kitco either. They just have some nice charts when it comes to what's going on in the metals markets. But hey, if anybody from AppMex or Kitco ever joins these streams and you want to talk with me about sponsorship, I'll be happy to do that. Let's see, what advertisement do we have going on? Kitco does a lot of advertising, so let's see. We've got Lending Tree going on up at the top, and Boat Captains share best prices. I don't know what in the world that one's all about, but anyway, we don't need the Google ad there. I don't know. We'll just leave Lending Tree up there. All right, we're talking about nickel. Nickel again. Nickel is one of those metals that is very dependent on what's going on in the markets. A lot of industrial uses. Of course, we know nickel primarily as stainless steel, right? It's alloyed as stainless steel. It's used in coins and wires and batteries and catalysts and, all kinds of stuff, right? So nickel really, is a good sign of what's going on in the big industrial metals. And for us as scrappers, while the odds are we're never going to deal with direct nickel, we are dealing with stainless steel in its various forms. And man, I tell you what, I would love to have the government contract for recycling turbine blades. Can you just imagine, getting turbine blades from the Navy or from the Air Force? And I say the Navy because not only the jet aircraft, but a lot of the smaller ships have gas turbine engines. So could you just imagine getting all those turbine blades when they change them out and things like that? All right, anyway, enough of that. Nickel, let's see what's going on in the nickel world. 24-hour down. I don't really get too bent around the axle on short-term trends like that, but this 30-day is not much better here. Look at this. This 30-day is down, really down. I mean, it had been trending down anyway, but then we just took this bit of a plunge here near the end of the period. And the 60-day spot, not doing any better. Still down. Oops, wrong button. Still down here. For the longer term trend, our 6-month nickel spot, also a terrible trend going on there. That's just depressing. Here's the 1-year nickel spot. Oh man, I tell you what, this is like, what in the world, okay, wow, look at that. It takes us to get to 5 years before we can see any kind of upward trend. And, nickel's had some, general upward. We had a spike, fell off. We had another spike, and it's just been trending down now for, the period that most of us have been in this game. Well, let's see what's going on here with the stock levels. Maybe that'll help us. 30-day London Metal Exchange, flat, a little bit of a bump, and then dropped off. So you would have expected prices to bounce a little bit on that, but then the the stocking levels started picking up again. The stock levels were, for the 60-day period, had been increasing, which would drive prices down. And even when the stock levels fell off, they didn't fall off that much. So we wouldn't expect that to have a big change in the pricing. Here's 6-month warehouse levels. They fell off to a base level here, right? So they keep on bouncing off of this level right here until they shot up about halfway through the period, dropped again, which would suggest a bit of consumption picked up, but now the levels are starting to stock back up again. So all in all, this is not very helpful for us. I mean, we can't even say that there might be a lag that would lead to a price increase in nickel, because even though, you look at the 1 year and you see that the warehouse levels were decreasing. They sort of flattened out here, but then they started picking up again. So it's like nickel was being consumed. In other words, stainless steel, mostly stainless steel, getting into the industry, getting consumed. We're bouncing off here. So the consumption of nickel is balanced by the input of nickel. And then, it's just, there isn't a lot of good signal here. There isn't much that helps us as scrappers to have any hope that we're going to see some reasonable amount of what's going on. And here's why I say this. All right, so here's the 5-year London Metal Exchange, and look at this. Look how low we are over here. We're lower than the London Metal Exchange. The amount of nickel that's in the inventory, that's in the warehouses right now, is the lowest that it's been in 5 years. And so you would think that the prices should be really well. Look at this drop. For the last almost half of the 5-year period, the overall level of the stock has dropped. And the pace of the drop kind of slowed up a little bit out here, but it's otherwise dropped. So you would have thought that these prices really would have gone up, with this drop. But when we look at the 5-year period, the spot price for the 5-year period, let's go back up to that. Here's the 5-year interval, and you saw that when that drop occurred, we have this spike, right? So remember, we had the nickel inventories fell off right around this time frame, and the prices spiked, right? But they recovered a little, and then they've fallen off. And so why are they falling off here from, let's see, what's this line? This little peak right here was in January of 23. So let's go down here and look at the inventory levels. January of 23, our inventory levels are not doing much of anything, right? Look at that. The inventory levels are not great. They're even still dropping off. We should have seen some better prices. So why aren't we seeing those better prices? We're not seeing those better prices because the markets just haven't rebounded strongly. China has not come in with the growth that lots of people thought they were going to come in with. The economies are not cranking out the way you would expect them to be cranking out things that require stainless steel and other high temp alloys like that nickel is commonly used for. So this is a reflection of just sort of the overall slowing down of economic events, and China just not getting into the market coming out of the pandemic the way a lot of people thought they were going to. I don't want that to sound like I'm blaming China, right? I mean, if the markets were there, you would have expected that China would be producing to fill the market, right? It's just the markets aren't there to support the stainless steel and the high temp alloys and such that you would need to have to drive nickel prices up where we would like them to be. All right, well, what does this mean for us as scrappers? Bottom line is, as a scrapper, you're going to take stainless steel in. I don't know about you, but I don't get a whole lot of stainless steel. Every now and then I'll get some stainless steel in various forms. A lot of the stainless steel that I get is in the form of kitchen kind of stuff, when I'm either street scrapping or I'm doing a clean out somewhere for folks. Every once in a while, some medical stuff will come in that has some high grade stainless steel in it. I did just pick up a nice, great big chunk of stainless steel in a warehouse clean out that I did. It was probably came off of a truck part. So for most scrappers, you're going to be bringing in your stainless steel. Just keep bringing it in. I don't see any reason to hold it thinking that you're going to make any killing on it anywhere. Just hang on to your stainless steel. Just keep selling your stainless steel as you get it. When you have enough of it, take in. I just don't see a whole lot of reason to try to hang on to it or stockpile it or anything like that. Just keep it moving. So, Appreciate all your thoughts on stainless steel, what you're doing with it, and where you're gonna, what you're gonna plan to do with it. Because man, I'm just selling mine as it comes in. You know, when the bin gets full enough that there's some weight that I know it's going to register for something, I bring it in. You know, I don't let it accumulate. So let's see, what kind of comments did we have come in? I'm looking here. There was a conversation. That's right. Recycling has joined us. Great to have you here, JR Cat. Oh, that's that so JR Cat, his wife has yelled at him for testing exit signs. Oh, okay. All right, I got you now. I think I understand what you're saying there. You know what? Have you ever gone to test the door and the alarm goes off? You know, you go to the exit door and you're looking to see what the stairs look like, and all of a sudden the alarm goes off. Got to really pay attention to this, to whether or not it says, you know, door is alarmed, alarm will sound, something like that. Because that's always embarrassing when you set off the alarm. Yeah. Let's see. Patrick Williams and how would you know what's inside a bullion? Can you trust it to be pure? Because scrappers in Ireland won't buy copper bullion. Okay, so Patrick, here's the thing. True bullion is going to come from a mint, a recognized mint, and so they will have stamped it, and in many cases will also use various tricks in their stamps and their signs in order to guarantee authenticity that people will look for. And it's that mint mark that tells other buyers and traders that when it's stamped 0.999 or 0.9999 pure, that it is in fact been tested and is that pure by the mint. Now, there are people out there that try to scam the system, that try to do knockoffs and such. And so even that can be a little bit tricky. But generally speaking, it can be difficult to fake, you know, a true bullion, gold or silver type bar, round, those kind of things. People do it, people try it, people get away with it because there are folks that don't test, that don't know how to test for it, and the scam artists do get away with it. A lot of yards will not buy bricks, rounds, bars that hobby scrappers or unregistered mints or, you know, people like most of us have poured, because they have no idea really what you've poured. And in all honesty, you probably don't know the true extent of the purity or lack of purity of a metal that you have poured, because you don't have the testing facilities, most likely, to actually test all of the material that you've poured. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, I mean, you know, it was all #1 copper and I just melted it and I poured it, so, you know, it should just be copper. Well, you don't know what other impurities may have gotten in the mix. You know, for something like copper, is that going to make a huge difference? Yeah, probably not. But for gold and silver, even the slightest little bit of impurities can really reduce the value of that gold and silver. Plus, if you bring in a big chunk of something, even a yard with an XRF gun or another testing, you know, tester, that only tests the surface of that brick. And so they're going to have no idea if you bake something inside of that brick or not. Now, why would you go through the trouble to do that? Well, there are some scam artists that they try to do it because they think they're going to get away with something. And that's why a lot of yards just won't take that kind of material. If they do take that material, they may delay payment because they're going to have to cut it open before they test it, or, you know, something like that. So that's why if your yards are not buying melted copper bars from you, then that's going to be your issue. As far as if you actually have minted copper bullion that is properly stamped and they don't buy it from you, it might just be that they just don't want to pay for that, the premium associated with a minted bullion, even copper type bar would be is one possibility. Sorry for a long stretched out answer on your question there, but there's a lot behind a question like that. Let's see. Roger says back in the 90s, he worked at a scrapyard that got in bicycle helmet molds made of 100% nickel. Very interesting. Very cool, man. That's very cool. Let's see. Big Vic 111 says, did you know that there's nickel in CRT tubes? Man, there's all kinds of stuff in CRT tubes. A lot of nasty stuff too. So, I've seen a couple of places that recycle CRT tubes, and it's really kind of cool. They got, they take the tube, they set it in this thing, and there's a wire that separates the leaded glass from the unleaded glass. They can vacuum off the phosphors and recycle those. The leaded glass can get melted down so the lead can be recovered. It's a pretty cool process. I just don't know that there's enough CRT tubes around anymore to keep a place like that moving. That'd be interesting to see if any of those places are still in operation. Yeah, anyway, but welcome to the show, Big Vic. Great to have you here. Oh, Andrew, thought I'd come back and see how we're doing. We're doing great, man. Great to have you back. Are you on your second cup of coffee or tea, or maybe even your third cup of coffee or tea by now? And Andrew's recycling wooden pallets. So he takes the pallets and breaks them down and uses them for fuel for the winter. So, oh man, that's funny. JR Cat says she'd kill me for opening the door. Oh man, that's hilarious. Oh man, that would be that. I'm telling you, it's really embarrassing when you do that. Yeah, really embarrassing. So let's see. I was talking about the bars and making the stuff yourself, and JR Cat says Kiko will buy them, but you have to pay for the assay. Okay, yeah, well I can understand that. And if it's a good enough material, then the assay is an understandable cost of doing business there. So makes sense there. Hey, Boats, welcome. Great to have you here, man. Yeah, I had a good Veterans Day. I worked through it, but hey, that's a good thing for vets to do, is work through Veterans Day, right? Hope you had a good one too, Boats. And all right, I think we're caught up with comments and questions going on there. So let's talk about our business discussion for today. And it's kind of related to something I talked about last week, but I just wanted to give you all an update on my attendance at the ISRI Southeast Region Fall Conference. So this is the ISRI homepage. ISRI is the Institute of Scrap and Recycling Industries. So here in the U.S., a lot of the scrap yards and the companies that provide all of the big tools and machinery for the scrap and recycling industry are a part of this organization, ISRI. And I recently, there you go, ISRI right there. I recently joined ISRI, about 6 months ago or so. And I'm going to put together a video probably for some time this week, talking about the pros and cons and the values of being a part of this group, and such. But what I want to talk about here was some of the stuff that I was exposed to and learned during this conference that I attended in Savannah, Georgia, this last week. So this was just the people from the Southeast region of the U.S. attending the conference. There were around 300 attendees, and I was asked to participate in the government relations working group by some folks that I had reached out to and told them about my background and things that I'd done. And I tell you, I came away with a great feeling about the support that this group provides for the industry. So this group, like a lot of organizations, they have a professional staff that's paid for, but then they have a lot of volunteers who are scrapyard owners or big equipment industry owners that work as regional presidents and support staff, things of that nature. One of the big things that this organization does is government outreach to address laws that govern, that oversee, that regulate what goes on in the scrapping and recycling industry. And I got an earful about different types of laws that we're trying to get passed on the books, that we're trying to move through the system, what the implications were for scrap yards, for peddlers, for the industry, just some really interesting stuff. HH Recycling, great to have you here. That's cool, man. Drive safe. Appreciate you listening in while you're driving. And just to give you an example of kind of, one of the things where you talk about a potential bill and you say, well, why would that be bad? And so one of the discussions is what's referred to as a bottle bill. A bottle bill, essentially, that's when the state says all bottles, all beverage containers must go back to a collection point. You'll get paid a deposit, paid back a deposit that'll be charged. And then they're collected up and sent on to, in the case of aluminum cans, to an aluminum recycler. And so you say to yourself, well, why is that a bad thing? Well, from the perspective of a scrapyard, especially a scrapyard that is a non-ferrous yard and maybe focuses heavily on aluminum cans are a big part of how they make their cash flow, how they make their money. And so a bottle bill might take away a large quantity of the aluminum that they would otherwise get, because instead of street scrappers and peddlers and folks like us bringing them bags and bins full of aluminum cans, those things are all going to an aluminum collection point that might be run by the local government. It might be set up associated with a liquor store or a grocery store or something like that. And then that material is managed by the local government for sale back to the aluminum, the beverage container people, the big aluminum companies. And so it takes the scrap yards out of that loop. It also, as people were discussing it, they said, right now, aluminum prices are fair market driven. If there's a demand for the aluminum, the price goes up. If the demand goes down, the price goes down, right? So the scrap yards say that, the big beverage companies and the aluminum melters, they want to have a little more control, a little more stability. And they can get that if they're dealing directly with one government agency that's managing or regulating the bottle returns, as opposed to every scrapyard out there. So, it's a much more complex story than just that, but that was an example of the kind of things that this group, ISRI, tries to go in and help represent the scrapyards and the recyclers and make sure that that their positions are understood by senators and congressmen and state governments before they enact these bills, so that they understand what the implications are. The other thing that we had was some various training and activities that go on. So ISRI does this all year round. They have a huge conference coming up in Vegas in 2024. So, you know, that, and if it's, and I can just imagine, I've heard, you know, while I was at the regional conference, I heard people talking about it. This show in Vegas it's a huge show. It's big. I mean, you know, the vendors bring in their big claws and their big machinery to show off to the scrapyard. So, you know, there's some really cool stuff that's available for the industry folks to see and get a feel for. There's good sessions and classes that go on for training. ISRI itself offers a lot of training throughout the year, webinars, news broadcasts, and such. Next week, ISRI is participating in a battery safety forum where a bunch of industry leaders are coming together to talk about not just lithium battery, the future of lithium batteries, but also the button cells that we all end up taking off of PC motherboards. You know, what's really going on with those, and how should those be dealt with, and does industry have an obligation in these things? So there's a whole lot that this group does. And I will put together a video with a bit more detail on this. But for now, suffice it to say that I learned a lot when I was at the Southeast Region conference this last week. I met a bunch of scrapyard owners, buyers, you know, just some really cool stuff all around. And I got to see some really cool toys too. So, you know, that was always a lot of fun. Plus it was in Savannah, Georgia. So, you know, that's not a terrible place. There's some good food. I was able to, those of you that saw the short that I put up, I had some time to go to the mighty 8th Air Force Museum and see a B-17 up close and personal. So that was kind of cool, kind of fun. So I will get you more information about ISRI coming up in the future, so that you'll have a better understanding of what it is, what it's doing for our industry moving forward. And of course, if you have any questions or you want to learn more yourself, please, by all means, feel free to ask me. So that was our industry note for the day. Kind of a little bit different than what we would normally have as an industry note, but I wanted to share what I had done last week, just because it was really cool, and I had such a good time and met so many very cool people. Mr. Matthews, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight, sir? All right, so our next discussion here is J.R. Cat says, your HOA would poop if you put a claw on the Yeah, my wife would kill me. Oh, but wait a minute. Look at this. Hang on a second. I got to show you this. Oh, okay. I got to show you all this because I got some really cool stuff here. I got all kinds of brochures and takeaways and things, you know, from the people that were there with the big toys, which is really cool. I mean, just some really interesting things. Like here, look at this. Wait a minute, is this the one? Yeah, I got to play with these, right? So analyzers. There's some very cool analyzer technology that's out there right now. So I'm going to put this in my Christmas wish list for Mrs. Sharp to see. What do you think that's going to work? And then, of course, there were the big toys. But this is what I wanted to show you. This has got some really interesting potential. All right, so you've seen the name here on, most likely you've seen that name and you recognize that color for equipment at the scrap yards. This machine is a smaller kind of version of that great big grabber, but it's got a lot of different attachments. So you can use it as a forklift, you can use it as a front end loader, you can use it as a pallet lifter, a sweeper. I mean, there's all kinds of things that this little guy can do. And you know, it just looks like a really fun tool to have when I grow up. So, man, I need to grow up fast, don't I? Red Light, welcome. Scrapping, Hoarding, Tinkering Fun, welcome. Great to have you here. Also, and those guys from the Sheboygan place, they gave me a pair of socks. So that's pretty cool. Got some socks from them. And another one of the group that I got to meet was this group here. So these folks recycle industrial scale transformers, the big knocking transformers. And so I was just sort of joking around with them about, you know, hey, I just did a video on scrapping transformers, and the one guy that was in the booth, he said, oh, cool, let me check it out real fast. And he started chuckling. And he's like, yeah, the ones we scrap are a little bit bigger than that. And usually they don't scrap them as much as they refurbish them so that they can be reused. But I had a really good conversation with these guys, and you know, they were telling me, hey, look, you know, you don't have to be the one that brings the transformers in. If you find a factory, a warehouse, a facility that is upgrading transformers and they don't know what to do with the old transformers, contact them and they'll give you a finder's fee. So if any of you out there run up against a situation where there's a bunch of industrial grade transformers, the great big transformers, reach out to me, let me know. I'll hook you up with these folks, and maybe you can make a little bit, you know, a finder's fee on helping to get those transformers scrapped out. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get on to talking about our stocks for the week. And funny enough, the stocks that we're talking about are in fact big equipment people. So the big equipment company that we're starting out with is Caterpillar. Wait a minute. This one, Caterpillar. So Caterpillar Incorporated, they are yielding 2.1%, which isn't great, but it's on $242 a share. So, you know, it's a reasonable amount of money, but still it's only 2.1%. And you got to have $240 in order to buy a share. So that's a pretty expensive stock to be buying into. All right, now let's take a look. Caterpillar is not qualified in cash flow or earnings per share, but we're going to make this a little bit smaller. They are a div 0. So for those of you that might be new here, what does that mean? That means for the last 17 years, Caterpillar has increased their dividends per share every year. And graphically, what that looks like is right here. So you can see that their cash flow and earnings per share have had some challenges, even though overall they have gone up, which is nice. But what we really like is that the dividends have gone up. And, you know, you look at that, that's almost a straight line. It's almost as if the board of directors has said, you know, we're going to stay around this 2%. Plus or minus a couple every year as a way to pay back our shareholders. So it's not a bad thing. Now, remember that I get my information here from the Value Line Investment Survey. That organization does not take any advertising. It's all subscription based. So it's just straight numbers and analysis of the numbers and the events that are going on with that company. So, they were saying that Caterpillar had a strong third quarter. Their sales gained 12% year over year. Get this number, $16.8 billion. That's how much they were making. That's unbelievable. Due to the positive combination of price hikes and higher volume. But they also commented on the fact that the Caterpillar folks themselves are saying that they may have some challenges ahead because the economy kind of slowing down a little bit. A lot of companies also have inventory or backlog. So Caterpillar is a little bit concerned about about next year. That is reflected in what you see over here, where the stock price goes down from the cash flow goes down from 23 to 24, and the earnings go down from 23 to 24. This is reflective of the concern that next year might not be as good as this last year for Caterpillar. And I think that, none of that should surprise us, right? China's economy didn't come back as strong as a lot of people thought it would. Mining is having some challenges around the world. There's still a lot of, construction going on here in the US, but that only uses so much of the big equipment. Now there's still a lot of road work, and as the investment money goes into infrastructure projects around the US, that's going to require a lot of heavy equipment. But Caterpillar requires a lot of sales all over the world in order to keep their numbers where they need to be. So, it's a good, strong, solid company. Is it one that I'm going to invest in? No. Is it one that you may want to invest in? Well, that's a decision you're going to have to make based on your investment desires and strong due diligence and talking with, if you choose to, somebody that's actually licensed or certified to advise you on these things, because I am not a certified or licensed financial advisor, planner, stockbroker. This is just what I use when I make my stock decisions. So going on to the company that I sort of let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, Cummins. Now Cummins is a little better. They are at least offering up a little over 3% for dividends, so that's not terrible. They're also in the $200 range, a little bit less than Cat, but not much better. And like Caterpillar, Cummins is qualified for us to look at. They are a Div 0, so 17 years of increasing dividends per share with no downside. So that's good. They are not qualified in their cash flow or earnings. And if we look at that graphically, we can see that, it kind of almost looks a lot like Caterpillar, doesn't it? You've got overall, their cash flow and earnings were up, but they had some, they've got some bouncing around going on there, a little bit of ups and downs. The dividend, though, is a nice, solid, almost a straight line going up. So, Cummins is also well positioned. Now, Cummins is actually probably better positioned than Caterpillar because Cummins is inside of a lot of big equipment. So Cummins designs, manufactures, distributes, and services diesel, natural gas, electric, hybrid powertrains, and the powertrain related components. including the control and fuel systems, automated transmissions, the batteries, the electric power systems, hydrogen production, and fuel cells. So, Cummins is actually in a better position than Caterpillar because they're in a lot of the heavy equipment and stuff, right? So it is, it probably can do better even when the market slows down a little bit, because while companies may not make the big capital investments in new equipment, they're going to have to maintain the equipment that they have. So that's where Cummins can still have decent money, because all the engines and powertrains and stuff, they still need to be serviced and maintained. One would argue that companies may put more money into those maintenance dollars than they would in, when they're not renewing their capital equipment. So Cummins is another one that you might want to consider, although it's a bit pricey to get into at almost $218 a share. So yeah, that's a little bit challenging. All right, let's see. Scrapping, Ordering, and Tinkering Fund is asking about Volvo. Let me see if they're on here. Hang on a second. No, Volvo is not. They may be. Where else were they be? They're not in the auto industry. I'm looking there, so they were not reviewed in the auto industry. And they're not reviewed on the heavy equipment industry. So I'll have to look and see which industry that Volvo is listed under. And if they're part of the Value Line Investment Survey process, I'll go ahead and let you know next week. Otherwise, yeah, I don't know, because I was thinking that they would have been in here, but I don't see them under the heavy truck and equipment makers industry. So I'll dig into that a little bit and see what I can come up with for you on that one. And Mr. Matthews, of course, says his Volvo is looking very full. Yeah, it's nothing new there, eh, Mr. Matthews? Simon, welcome. We're just about ready to wrap up, but great to have you here. Great to have you here, sir. Let's see. They say that they own Mack Truck. Okay, well, let's see. Is Mack? No. They're not separately listed either. I'm going to look into it, okay? I'll find out. I will find out what I can find out for that for y'all. Volvo is part of Ford, I believe. Well, let's find out here real quick. Wait a minute, because Ford is on here. So let me check Ford real quick and see what they say about Ford. If they talk about them owning Volvo. Let's see. Like foreign operations, and they sold Volvo. Okay, so Ford Financial Services, Ford Operations accounted for about 23%. They sold Volvo. So who did they sell Volvo to? Oh my, I do have some research to do now, don't I? All right, well, thanks. I appreciate the question, and you've given me something to mess around with, trying to figure out. Very cool. Oh, wait a minute. Homer was Reluctant Odyssey is saying Volvo cars are owned by Geely, a Chinese. The heavy equipment is separate. Okay. All right. Very cool. And Geely is also not analyzed by the Value Line Investment Group survey. So at least not in this edition. So I'll have to look at that one a bit more too. All righty. Well, really interesting comments there near the end about, with what was going on there with Volvo. Put me on a little mission to see what I can figure out. Now, I know that a lot of you are used to automatically being taken over to Scrapping Irish's live stream, but I was unable to get the redirect set up today. So when I end this stream, you are going to need to go into YouTube and look for Scrapping Irish and join his live stream. I will not be able to automatically redirect you over there this time. I apologize for that. I don't know why that didn't want to play this week. Sometimes those things happen. I hope everybody has enjoyed this stream. I had a lot of fun chatting with everybody, and I look forward to seeing you across the pond here in just a little bit over in Ireland, where we can continue the discussion, because you never know who's going to come up in the panel or what subjects are going to come up or what, rat holes we're going to end up going down. So I look forward to seeing you on the other side of the pond. Everybody have a great week. Be safe and check your fire exits. Later on, y'all.